Here's the deal. This is the past 5 days for AMD stock. The stock has climbed double-digit percentage in the past 5 trading days. It is up over 10%. That's versus NVIDIA, which is up 0.4%, and that's versus S&P 500 that has actually gone down the last 5 days. So despite the market going down, AMD's going up, and not just up, it's up significantly, up 10+%, right? So this stock is showing no signs of slowing down in regards to this price momentum that we've seen for the last several months. It just continues to roll higher and higher, and investors continue to want to pile into this stock, right? Now, you got to understand some important things. I've talked a lot about AMD's fundamentals lately, right? In MI350 and MI400 and what that's going to do for the company. I've talked so much about fundamentals of AMD till I'm blue in the face last few months, right? As I've been acquiring the stock and buying it left and right? Well, there's also some important things going on with the stock in regards to things that aren't fundamental but move the stock massively. So what I'm showing you right now is Wall Street ratings on AMD stock. Okay, this is analyst breakdowns. 50 analysts cover the stock, and this is what basically, are they saying hold the stock? Are they saying buy the stock? Or are they saying this is a strong buy right here? Okay, now there's a couple things you got to remember. Okay, first, there's 0 analysts that have a sell rating on AMD, and there's 0 analysts that have a strong sell rating, which means analysts, Wall Street, they look at AMD as there's no reason to sell this stock. No reason at all, right? Which is a great sign for a stock. That's honestly like a big vote of confidence when you can have no analyst that says this stock is a sell, right? However, it's a very important number here. Do you see this one that says hold here? Look at that number. 17 analysts have just a hold rating on AMD right now. We have a lot of analysts to bring over to this bullish side over this next few quarters, okay? A lot of analysts. So remember, when we take these hold folks and we bring them over to buy, usually you see a lot of price momentum come in the stock. Like if we can bring 10 of these holds over to buys, it's going to be huge. And then if we can take some of these buys and bring them to strong buy, that's massive as well, right? And remember, a lot of Wall Street listens to these analysts. A lot of them make their investing decisions. That's why when one of these analysts comes out with a bearish note, a stock all of a sudden goes down 4, 7, 8% the next day. You're like, how? Just because an analyst came out? Yes. Wall Street, the funds, high net worth individuals, they actually listen to a lot of these analysts. Now, keep in mind, a lot of these analysts are wrong very often, but they listen to them, man. And additionally, you see an analyst come out and upgrade a stock, right? And say, hey, we're moving from hold to buy, or we're moving from hold to strong buy. We're up in our price target, $40 a share. Boom. Next thing you know, the stock's up 6% the next day. And you're like, just because an analyst came out and said, go buy, the stock's up 6%, okay. And also remember, the algorithms all react to this information as well. So it's not just, average Joe's doing this, but remember, a lot of the market trading activity now is AI based, is algorithm based, right? And so if it reads, analysts at Goldman Sachs, analysts at Morgan Stanley, wherever, just said, go buy this stock, a lot of times it sends a stock up, even if you're in a down tape for that particular day, right? Now, the next thing I want to point out here is the average price target on the stock, because this is even more important than what we just looked at. The average price target for AMD is $130 a share. The stock is $128 right now. Uh-oh. A lot of analysts are about to be in big trouble. Big trouble. Get ready for price target raises left and right. This is not the first time I've seen this. What happens is analysts will be too bearish on a stock. And so they put way too conservative of a price target out there because the stock hadn't performed very well. And if you look at AMD stock performed horrible from basically, the starting in the second quarter of 2024 through the first half of this year. AMD stock performed horribly. So what happens is analysts go bearish, right? They bring down all those price targets to very conservative numbers. Then what ends up happening is, the company's fundamentals are getting better. More bullish momentum builds, stock price starts to go up. And next thing you know, all these analysts start to find themselves way under the price target. Now, imagine you have a strong buy on AMD or a buy rating on AMD, right? And let's say you have a $130 price target on it. AMD could be 130 plus next week. How are you going to have a strong buy rating on AMD with a $130 price target? You can't. So you know what happens? The analysts start to say, we've got to bring up our price target. And next thing you know, you see, because they don't want to take down their strong buy rating because then it makes them look like they're bearish on the stock. They can't do that. They're bullish on AMD. So what they end up doing is they say, we're raising our price target to 165. Boom. Stock reacts to that. You get a bunch more upward momentum. Then analysts across the street see, oh man, that New York City Wall Street firm just brought them up. I got to bring them up as well. They bring up their price target. And then this kind of becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy of people start bringing up their price targets, the stock keeps going up, and they got to keep bringing up their price targets. And they're like in this race. That same thing that happens on the downside when they're on the race to the bottom and they keep lowering price target, same thing happens on the upside. How can you have a buy rating on the stock if, let's say, this stock in the next couple months goes to 155 and your price target's at 125? That doesn't make sense. Your price target's at 140. Doesn't make sense. You got to bring up your numbers big time. And so all of a sudden, next thing you know, you're going to have analyst after analyst going to 160 price targets, 170 price targets, 180 price targets, and you'll have the people that are very bullish on AMD start to move to 200 plus. You'll have some folks start to move to 220, 240, and maybe even some move to $250 price targets, the people that are really, really bullish on the stock. And that will be a game that plays out, especially after next earnings here. Now, something else very important I point out to you is this next thing. Check this out. This is some good stuff I'm giving you guys here today, man. Some good stuff, okay? So check this out. What you're looking at now is analyst price targets versus the actual price of AMD stock over the past 5 years. Now, I draw your attention to right here during this particular time. This was 2022. Now remember, from basically the end of 21 through to the fourth quarter of 2022, what happened to the market? It got wrecked. What happened to semiconductor stocks? They got wrecked. What happened to tech stocks in general? They got wrecked, obliterated, right? So AMD stock crashes, along with basically every other tech stock. I mean, almost every tech stock I know of was down 50 to 80% during that particular time, right? So AMD stock crashes. What happens? Analysts bring down their price targets left and right, right? Boom, 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 boom. Brought their price targets all the way down to what, $90 or so at that particular time, right? What ends up happening? AMD stock bottoms, and AMD stock starts to explode higher and higher and higher and higher, and analysts start to figure out, crap, we need to start bringing up our price targets, right? And finally, they get serious about bringing up their price targets. And when they finally did, by the way, that was right around the time AMD stock ended up peaking in that particular cycle, because stocks go through cycles, like bull cycles that, sometimes can last 1 to 2 years. That's just incredible upward momentum, and then they sometimes chill for the next 1 to 2, 3 years, right? And sometimes they falter during that particular time. So AMD stock during that time went from $55 to a $200+ stock, right? About 4x'd. Unbelievable. And that's just after analysts had gone incredibly bearish in regards to stock and the price targets, right? Well, what do we have that has just transpired here? Look at this. Analysts have gone ultra bearish on AMD when it comes to their price targets, right? They've fallen off a cliff for the stock, and they're all the way down to here, which is, the one we just looked at, about $130 on average, right? So they went from price targets of 200 to 130. That's a huge drop. Right? Huge drop, especially considering it's not even like the market's crashed or something like that like you had back in 2022. So here AMD stock is already skyrocketing higher from that lows of 70 something dollars, right? To now it's at almost 130. And my opinion is we're in the midst of likely a multi-year AMD bull cycle again that will end up taking AMD to likely $300 or maybe even over $300, right? And so we're just seeing the same phenomenon happen. And what's going to end up happening is analysts are going to be slow to react. They're going to be a little slow to react, but as time ticks on and as AMD goes higher and higher, they're going to keep bringing up those price targets. And what you're going to see is this orange line go higher and higher and higher, but the blue line is going to far exceed the orange line essentially over the next at least 1 to 2 years, in my personal opinion. So it's going to be fun to see how all that game plays out, but it's the same thing recurring again and again and again, just different cycles, right? Now, the market matters for a stock like AMD, right? If we can see more upward momentum in the market, it certainly helps a stock like AMD for sure, right? If the NASDAQ crashes 30% over the next, 6 months, gosh, that's not going to be good for AMD, right? It's going to be hard for AMD to go up. I mean, it's possible, but it's tough very, very tough to have a stock go up if the market's crashing, right? It's near impossible. But we got some good news for the market here. This came out here today, and this matters significantly. Fed Governor Waller says central bank could cut rates as early as July. Chris Waller said Friday that he doesn't expect tariffs to boost inflation significantly, so policymakers should be looking to lower interest rates as early as next month. Ooh, that's big. This is huge for the market, and the reason this is huge is you watch Powell's press conference from a couple days ago, right? It seems like they're just in no rush at all. Like, oh my gosh, they could just take their sweet little time. So, Waller matters at the Fed. He absolutely matters. What he says matters. He's clearly saying, let's get lowering, right? Which means we're starting to have people at the Federal Reserve starting to wake up and be like, we got to start the next lower cycle, right? Just because the market's holding up well right now doesn't mean the whole economy is doing amazing. And like, we need to get lowering interest rates, right? We're far too restrictive. So I'm happy Waller's waking up. And I don't think he's going to be the only one. I think there's going to be several people. Remember, Powell's out next year. But a lot of these other folks at the Fed, they want to stick around. Some of them might have ambitions to be Fed president. And gosh, let's see here. Trump's going to be in office. And who's he going to approve to be the next Fed president? What does Trump want? Trump wants lower interest rates. Trump wants the Fed to lower interest rates. So if I was in a situation where, President Trump had to say if I was going to be allowed to be the Fed president or not, it would be highly intelligent of me to say, I want to do what Trump wants, which is lower interest rates, right? Now, I also believe that's just the best move to make, and that could be fair. But Waller's not going to be the only one to start taking this stance. Because other people are looking and they're like, I want to be Fed president. I want to be the big dog, right? You think Trump's gonna approve anybody becoming the next Fed president who is in a situation where they're holding out on interest rates right now and they're saying no, the Fed needs to stay up? I don't think so. I think the only type of people Trump is going to approve to be the next Fed president come next year are people that are fully on this mission to lower interest rates substantially over the next 6 to 12 months. So, the moral of the story is, Powell could see himself outnumbered very quickly here. Very quickly. And I think we're going to be in a situation here where you're going to see more and more important individuals at the Federal Reserve coming out and saying we got to get lower in interest rates. Which is certainly, good for the market, at least in the short term, right? And obviously, this is something I think is very, very important. And the Fed's got to bring down all this crazy talk about inflation, because it's keeping Treasury yields high. Like, the Fed's got to come out and start saying, like, no, inflation, they got to be realistic. Like, inflation's dead, man. And they got to start talking like that. And then if they start talking like that, you're going to see all the Treasury yields start to go down significantly, right? Which is honestly what they should be doing. But by the Fed keep taking the stance of, like, inflation might spike back up, because of tariff, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's just going to keep Treasuries higher. That's going to make the government debt be worse than ever. Like, it's not no bueno situation. Now, when it comes to AMD, right, are we still looking good on a valuation basis, even after this move? The answer is abso-dang-lutely we're looking good. The forward P is barely over 20 on this stock, right? The 2-year forward P, that is. A 2-year forward P is barely over 20. We're looking really good. And keep in mind, I think there's a high probability AMD is going to be way more profitable in 2 years out than what analysts have right now. So there's a good chance that this number might end up being high. It could be the real 2-year forward P might actually be way lower than that, but only time will tell, right? Because it's just an estimate. So we're looking good as far as valuation is, so we don't have any concerns as far as that goes either. Then we take it to the next thing, earnings. The next earnings for AMD will likely come out at the end of July or the beginning of August, right? This earnings guide is going to knock people's socks off, in my opinion. It's not the numbers that they're going to report for this quarter they're in that are going to knock people's socks off. It's going to be the guidance. I don't think anybody's prepared for that guidance right now. I don't think anybody's prepared, because that guidance is going to have MI350 in it. Remember, they're just getting MI350 into production. So for this particular quarter, they're going to report, you're not going to really get much of that revenue. But you know what? You're going to get a ton of that revenue in this particular quarter. TSMC is going to be likely full go on production for MI350 during this 3-month period. And so you'll likely see numbers skyrocket for this company in several businesses. One is going to be data center, which data center has already been skyrocketing before even MI350 hits. And Lisa Su says MI350 is like a 3x performance over the original series. Oh my gosh, right? And by the way, she's talking 10x performance when we hit MI400, but that's a next year story, right? So MI350 is going to be hitting, you're going to see this data center revenue skyrocket. Once again, not for this quarter they're about to report, but for the guidance for the next quarter. That's what's going to knock people's socks off and get people really excited. Additionally, the embedded segment, I've been watching the trend of this business. And if you've been watching the trend of this business for the past year and a half, essentially we're in a state now where this business is about to flip back to growth. It's just a question of, is it going to be the quarter they report right now, or is it going to be more the quarter they guide for where this is going to go back to growth? But it's clear as day, if you look at the data, the embedded business is about to flip. So next thing you know, we're going to have all the businesses headed in the right direction, with obviously the skyrocketing area being data center, right? But embedded, when that does flip, which is likely in the next quarter or two, you're going to see those numbers accelerate quite significantly, in my personal opinion, like quite significantly. So I was trying to think about what image could come to mind that would make me think of AMD stock. And this was the image that came to my mind, a freight train. This stock is a freight train till at least 2027, in my personal opinion. An absolute freight train. You do not get in front of a freight train. You don't come back. And that's what we're looking at here with AMD, in my personal opinion. The stock's a freight train. And look out. Look out. Hey, it's Jeremy. I hope you really enjoyed watching that clip here today. What you're looking at in front of you right there, that's 1000xstocks.com. That's my advanced software that I've been working in the background creating for a long time. This software is so much more advanced than what others are presenting out there in the market. And as somebody that's been in the market 15 years, I want to create something that was simple, that had exactly everything I needed to make my judgments on companies, such as forward P ratios, 2-year out forward P ratios, price to sales ratios, forward price to sales ratios. I wanted the ability to be able to compare different companies versus each other. I wanted to be able to compare a Meta versus a Google versus an Apple and be able to see all those different metrics laid out all next to each other. I wanted a service that I could listen to conference calls right through and even be able to toggle and adjust the speed I wanted to listen to those conference calls. I wanted a service that I could search SEC filings right through. I wanted the ability to do that all in one service, and that is exactly what I've created with 1000xstocks.com. If you want to apply for access to this, go to the description area of this video. You can click that link and go ahead and apply for access to this. If you don't want to do that, you can go to 1000xstocks.com. Enjoy. I just posted this on X. I said, AMD, give me your 12-month price target. I said, my 12-month price target, you know what it is for AMD? $222, baby. Yeah, $222 for AMD. You guys know, obviously I'm bullish on the long term for AMD, but I do expect that stock to continue to heat up hotter and hotter and hotter as more and more folks go bullish on the stock as they see the numbers roll through, the guidance roll through. And so, if you want to check out what people are saying in the comments as far as that goes and what their opinions are on the 12-month price target, you can always follow me on X. That's linked in the description area of all my videos. So you can go down there. Also, my Instagram's linked there as well. It looks like 44 people in the past, since I posted that 16 minutes ago, have already commented. So if you want to put in your 12-month price target, we can always look back in 12 months and see, who was the closest in regards to that. Okay, now let's start getting into these.
Tell you what, beer never broke my heart, but certainly AMD has to many. I think it's time to turn that around. Courtney, thank you for the list. Thank you for being here.
You're welcome, Michael.
So that's important right there, right? A Wall Streeter going bullish on AMD, right? And he acknowledges like AMD's broken a lot of hearts. The Wall Streeters are starting to turn. It's part of the process, man. If you're going to have a big bull cycle in regards to stock, it can't just be retail investors like myself and you guys, that see an opportunity with the company and are like, man, this is big. Like AMD's going to be huge over this next few years, right? It has to be the big money has to start coming in. The Wall Streeters have to start coming in, right? And so we had some analysts this past week start to go a little bullish on the stock. Now you start getting some of these Wall Streeter types start saying, you know what? I like AMD now, right? And you know why people are starting to get interested in AMD when it comes to the Wall Street side and the analyst side? I'll tell you why. The stock is starting to perform really freaking well. That stock bottomed back in April in the 70s, right? It's already up to 126 or so. So that's a huge pop in a very short amount of time. The better AMD stock price performs, the more the Wall Streeters are going to jump on this bandwagon left and right. Like all of a sudden this stock goes 150, 175. We're going 200 right after that. And once we talk about 200, we're going to be talking about breaking new all-time highs and going to 250. And so, you got to understand, like, it's like a whole compound effect. The Wall Streeters, the analysts start turning a little more bullish. The Wall Streeters start turning a little more bullish. And that creates this price momentum. The company comes in. As long as the company comes in with great numbers, which they should do, Lisa Su and the team should come in with great numbers, great guidance. You keep the momentum going. More and more these Wall Streeters, hedge funds, analysts get bullish on it. It's just a whole snowball effect, and then the stock just continues to beast. And so when I say my price target, 222, obviously it's so hard to make a 1 year price target, right? I love to make my longer term price targets and run my projections on 1000xstocks.com. But 12-month price target, because I would not be surprised. And I have no call options on AMD. So maybe this doesn't happen. A year from now, AMD is still 126, right? But it's near impossible for me to see that, considering how strong AMD numbers should be and how strong the guidance should be for this next several quarters. Like, I think their guidance even next quarter is going to be booming. And I think the guidance for the following quarter is going to be even better. And so, and then you talk about several of AMD's businesses that have been negative are going to turn positive in the back half of the year, in my opinion, as well. Like, there's going to be a lot to be excited around regarding AMD. But some people might say, hey, this is bearish. I'm sure you guys have seen in the past 24 hours or 48 hours. Amazon custom AI chip success might lead to greater market share. One of my big companies, one of my biggest investments, Amazon, right? What are they doing? AWS, successful training results with its custom artificial intelligence chips might help the company gain market share in the realm currently dominated by NVIDIA and, to a lesser extent, AMD. AWS plans to announce updates soon to its chips, blah, 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 right? Here's the deal, okay? In regards to Amazon, as an Amazon shareholder and as somebody that wants Amazon to succeed in regards to their chip ambitions, right? My opinion is they cannot catch NVIDIA and AMD when it comes to the best tech. And they're not really trying to do that. Amazon, in my opinion, what they're trying to do is have workloads that don't need the best of the best chips. They need chips that are powerful enough to accomplish what a particular company needs, right? And do it in a very efficient manner, a very energy efficient manner. Because it's kind of a waste. Let's say you're using like the most expensive NVIDIA chip or the most expensive AMD chip, but you don't actually need that chip because it's like you don't need all that power. It's a waste. It's a complete waste, right? And I'm sure some of you guys know that from even using a computer. Like some people buy these, insanely spec'd out computers. And they never even use the computer for what, like a fraction of what they actually need it for, right? A car is a great example of that. Like, right? I got two cars actually in my garage that can go 200 miles per hour. The Model S Plaid is supposed to go 200, and my Ferrari is supposed to go at least 200. I'm never gonna take those things to 200 miles per hour, right? It's way more powerful than I need. And so if you're a company and you need massive amounts of chips, what is the point of having the most powerful, most expensive chips? It's so inefficient if you don't need that. Now, there are certain programs, certain things, certain training developments, certain inference you need to perform that you need the best of the best chips. You want the best of the best chips. You want the MI350 that AMD has. You want the most advanced Blackwell chips from NVIDIA, right? Like, for certain applications, that makes the most sense. But for others, it doesn't. Not every company, not every business, not every service needs the most advanced NVIDIA chip and the most advanced AMD chip. And so that's where these sorts of custom chips come in for Amazon and can help companies run very efficiently, okay?